Welcome back to the latest episode of B6 and Beyond. You've got just me tonight from a Villa aspect, but we have got a special guest for you tonight. We have got Mad Mason, the Palace fan. How you doing, Mason? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Can't complain. Obviously, it's an interesting period at the moment with the transfer window, which I'm sure we will get onto at some point throughout the episode. Um, yeah, not too bad, mate. So, obviously, the main reason for Mason to come onto the show tonight, and I've been really grateful that he has, is to give us a bit of an insight into what we should be expecting for Crystal Palace this weekend. Before we do get into the episode, I just want to remind everyone, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are doing ongoing giveaways. Every 500 followers, we will be giving away either some match tickets or a football shirt, whatever you would prefer. So the next one is at 1,000. So as soon as you hit that subscribe button, you're automatically entered. Let's get into the episode. So, big game, big game. First bit I really want to go into really is around the transfer window, and it is potentially a bittersweet moment with the loss of Eberechi Eze, but obviously you've got Yeremy Pino through the door now. How do you feel about the transfer window?
Look, I feel like the transfer window is just a small part of this summer as a whole. It's been a roller coaster. When you look at Palace obviously winning the FA Cup, one of the biggest moments us Palace fans will probably ever experience. And obviously, about 2 weeks after, we had the whole UEFA drama, and we knew that that would impact on the transfer window, but we didn't think that the case would take as long as it had done. And obviously, we got the verdict on from UEFA. I think it was on the 11th of July. But we knew that we were playing in Europe regardless. So we knew that we had to invest. And it seems like the board, a tiny bit, have used this as an excuse to wait and see what competition we're in fully to see who we get. Now, we obviously thought that maybe with Eze, even though he has had links with Champions League clubs, it shouldn't really matter if we're in the Europa League or the Conference League. Eze signing for Arsenal is going to be an upgrade regardless. But I do feel like that if we'd have got the Europa League, maybe Eze would have thought, if I can maybe get Palace to a Europa League, it would be difficult. But just to leave them with them getting Champions League football, I mean, it is like massive speculation. Obviously, we're now not in the Europa League anyway, so it's pointless talking about that. But um, that was always going to be a factor. And once we found that we had been officially demoted to the Conference League, I do feel like that was a little bit of a factor for him to leave. Obviously, Yeremy Pino, look, I feel like it's quite a bit of a bargain that we've got for him. I feel like his release clause, I think, was pretty similar to Eberezi's at the time. So the fact that we've got him down to 26 million, 21 plus 5 million add-ons, is, I would say, an absolute steal, and it's great that we've got him in for the game tomorrow.
I agree with you. I think it's a snip of a deal. What's your thought process on obviously the news that has broken today around Mark Gehi potentially off to Liverpool for £35 million bid? Was it? I'm led to believe.
Yeah, look, I think it's a bit of a shock. Obviously, for me, I was working today, so obviously I haven't caught up with the whole gist of it really. But it had got a little bit quiet over the Mark Gay rumours. I think because we'd sold Eze, it was obviously going to be very difficult for us to then sell not only our talisman but our captain in the same summer window. Obviously, Palace, I don't think in their history have ever done anything quite like that before. Probably because we've not been a very attractive club for signings till now. Um, I just feel like no matter what price we let him go for, I do feel like selling him will be a massive, massive loss, especially when you've got, as we currently speak, 2 days left of this transfer window. I feel like it's ridiculous that we're going to be trying to replace him at that point. I know, obviously, we signed, much to your disgust, but JD Canvo, for the same amount of money as we did Pino, but at 19 years old, do I think he's going to be the immediate Gahey replacement with the experience and just such talent that he brought to the table? I'm not too sure at this moment in time, and that is my worry on that one. And obviously, I think Palace tried to do a sort of loan swap deal with Joe Gomez.
Hmm.
I just think that's not really. It doesn't make me go wow. Do you know what I mean? Like, for a player of Gay's quality, I feel like we do need that wow factor of a player to bring in and look forward to, especially after the international break.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sold on Joe Gomez. He's decent, but you can think about how much football he's actually played over the last year or so, and you are losing. Yeah, I'd personally rather be putting Camvo in there over someone like Joe Gomez. At least you're going to be giving that guy, young blood, and you're blooding him in, like throw him into the deep end, swing or swing or sink, swim or sink. We got there eventually. Swim. Don't know what happened there. Swim or sink situation. And for me, he has played a lot of football in France, hasn't he? So he looks an exciting talent. I was really hoping we would get him over the line to be that understudy to Ezri Konsa, but sadly, obviously, we can't afford a pot to piss in by the looks of it. But it is what it is. So, bit of a question for you, and this is a bit of an interesting one. Why do you think Palace have had Villa's number over the last year?
I think it's been a lot of Palace's determination to go on and win games. I'm not going to lie. Obviously, I think the last time you beat us in the Premier League was under Roy Hodgson, September 2023. I think it was the last game, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the last game you played against us when we didn't have Glasner. So obviously, I feel like in that game, and obviously it was a couple of years ago, so I'm not going to talk about it for a long time, but we did take the lead, but I feel like it was a very sit-back situation. And once Jean Duran got that goal in the 87th minute or something, we knew it was going to be a case of hold on for that point. Whereas I feel like with Oliver Glasner over the last couple of years against you lot, he's been very determined, no matter what happens, get the job done. And I think we've seen that multiple occasions. Obviously, I think in the Carabao Cup game last season and the game at Selhurst Park in the league last season, you equalised against us twice and we still went on to win the game. And I just think that was just Glasner's persistence to carry on. I think in November of last season when we played Villa in the 2-2 draw, that was a little bit different because we were going through a period of not so great form. We didn't start the league very, very well. I think it was, again, like winless in 7, didn't win till October in the Premier League last season. So we were just starting to find our form by the time we played you guys. So that was a little bit different. But then you look at obviously the FA Cup semi-final in April, we had found our form. Obviously, the occasion probably got to us as well. Oliver Glasner, he's determined to win trophies no matter what club he's at, no matter what history they've got. And, and obviously I think it was since 1990, Palace's only opportunity to get into the FA Cup final, and our last time was in 2016. It was a big, big occasion for us. And I think that, and mixed with Glasner's determination, got us that win. So, yeah, I just feel like with tomorrow's game now, is the lack of squad depth really going to show with our 5th game being in the space of a fortnight?
Yeah, to be honest with you, that 2-2 game, I went into that and I was so confident that we would win. I was literally so confident. I was at the game and I just thought, we're going to turn you over, and we were terrible to begin with. I remember Lamar Bogard getting absolutely rinsed by the Villa faithful. He got dragged at half-time for Matty Cash, but he weren't that bad that game, which is a bit of a side note. And as for the Cup game, we put out quite a weak side out for that, and you were quite strong, if I remember rightly. And but then what you've just said about the second half of the season, you found your feet massively so, and you were on fire in that second half of the season. Mateta especially, he was bagging for fun, and Eze was purring. So naturally, and let's not forget Ismail Assar, because he likes a goal against Villa, so can't forget him, can we?
Nah.
And he was purring. I didn't go into that game at Wembley with much confidence, to be honest with you. I thought it would be a difficult game, and we were terrible. But anyway, let's move on from that. It's a little bit of a sore note in my head. Probably a sore note in your head for a different reason. Maybe I have too many beers to celebrate, but for me, it was more depression.
Yeah.
So what are we likely to see from Crystal Palace this weekend? Do you reckon we'll get some sort of a European hangover?
Look, I feel like there's going to be, obviously with Palace's first game in Europe, there's going to be mistakes in there. Do you know what I mean? In terms of trying to combine it with the Premier League. Obviously, I know it's not got anything to do with the game tomorrow, but we've just got our dates for our Conference League matches. When you look at our games in the Premier League directly after that, we're talking Arsenal away, we're talking Everton away at their new place, we're talking Man City at home. These are games where no disrespect, but if we were playing like a Burnley on the following Sunday, I would feel a lot more at ease. And I feel like this is the first test, really. And obviously, we played Nottingham Forest directly after the home leg against Fredrikstad, but that not only was coming off the back of a win, but I feel like that was obviously fueled up with the whole rage towards Forest and the whole sort of drama we've had with them over the summer. So when we look at the Aston Villa game, I'm not going to lie, when we've looked at all the games in August, not just because of chronological order, but I've not really looked at the Villa game till literally after the Fredrikstad away leg, because there's been a lot more priorities. I'm not saying it's not an important game on Sunday. Of course it is. We're still looking for our first Premier League win of the season, and we'd love to get it tomorrow. But I just feel like there's going to be a massive strain on our squad. I'm not going to lie. Maybe down that left-hand side, we may have a little bit of freshness, because I hope Jeremy Pino makes his debut. I don't see why he can't. You know, you look at the players like Daichi Kamada, he's going to come back into midfield, I hope, next to Adam Wharton and Justin Devenny. As much as he's a great academy talent, he got his first senior goal against you guys back in that November 2-2 game last season. As much as he's a great talent, I just can't see him being a starter right now for a club that wants to progress up that Premier League table and try and, you know, compete in a European competition. So hopefully Pino starts on that left-hand side, and then Mitchell, who I think played 20 minutes against Fredrikstad on Thursday, because we've obviously signed Borna Sosa as well, he can come in at left-back. So that left-hand side will be fine. But if you look at the rest of the pitch, especially that defence, well, maybe Mitchell aside, the back three and Munoz has been consistent for the last 4 games, and we're talking in the space of 2 weeks. With the Community Shield, the Fredrikstad 2 games, Chelsea away, Forest at home. You know, it's been tough for these players, and I feel like the strain may get too much on Sunday if you push us hard enough.
To be honest with you, I think you'll win the Conference League. I'm pretty confident of that. The level of the teams there isn't fantastic, and realistically, I think we would have won it if we just had the depth. We suffered some injuries, and towards the end of the season, we were absolutely peppered, and we just about got over the line and got Champions League. But if you get a few, do you reckon you'll get many more through the door over the next few days?
I'm hoping so. We're linked with Baumgartner from RB Leipzig. He's not a bad player, you know. He's a good reinforcement there. I do feel like we need that backup right wing back, because our young right wing back behind Munoz, Caleb Kapora, is still injured, and Nathaniel Klein. You know, when you say stuff like in 2025, should he really still be playing in the Premier League? That is where I am really now with Nathaniel Klein. And not only is he a backup at right wing back, he's also our centre back backup. If you don't start putting a midfielder in Jefferson Lerma at the back, you have to rely on Nathaniel Klein. And I just think that puts too much of a strain on him. Look, I respect Nathaniel Klein's done a lot for the football club, but you look at players like that, and these are the sort of players that are holding us back to getting to that next level. And you mentioned about you're confident Palace will win the Conference League. I don't mean to be negative here, but everyone's saying we should win it because West Ham won it 2 years ago and stuff like that. That's what they keep saying. My whole argument is West Ham had experience in Europe before that Conference League run. They were in Europa League, I think, for the last 2 seasons before they won the Conference League. And obviously the Europa League and the Conference League, when I was watching both draws on, yesterday, you can see the difference in quality. You know what I mean? So, and obviously everyone's saying Chelsea won it. Well, of course they did. They spent £1 billion on their squad. They've won the Europa League and Champions League in their history. Obviously they're going to play their bench and push teams aside. The thing is with us, it's our first ever season in Europe. We're going to make mistakes. I do feel like we're going to be more cautious towards the Premier League, especially at this end of the season. And I'm not saying we won't win it, but I feel like with the small squad that we've got at this moment in time, will it be enough to push us to that trophy? I'm not too sure right now.
I think that will be your only stumbling block. And like I say, just from being in the tournament and seeing the level of some of the opposition that we played, they were really poor. And obviously playing against Crystal Palace and seeing the level of your squad, you've got a very good team. You know, your 11 is very strong, and I think defensively you're fantastic. And Adam Wharton for me, he's a superstar. While we're talking about Palace players, it makes perfect sense. What's going to be your team for the weekend? Who are we going to see?
Well, I feel like obviously I'm going back a while now, but I think it's going to be the same lineup as what we saw in the FA Cup final with Pino replacing Eze, obviously. So you're going to have Henderson in goal. Should be Mitchell coming back in to replace Borna Sosa. I would like to see Borna Sosa get a chance in the Premier League. However, I do feel like Mitchell's that starting left wing back at the moment. Munoz, you know, he must go there. I can't see anybody else that can, apart from Nathaniel Klein, but I can't see him starting in a Premier League game for us this season, unless there's injuries. Your back three is going to be the same. Maybe I don't know if Gahey will be out of the squad with the whole talk of his transfer, because things like this, they can progress overnight, especially with us being so close to deadline day. It could be a here we go in the next hour. We don't know. And if that's the case, then obviously I think our back three would most likely be Lerma, Richards, and Lacroix. If not, and Gahey's pretty much still a Palace player, then it will be Gahey, Richards, and Lacroix. And that's what I like about Gahey and obviously Eze before he left, is that they're not behaving like babies, let's say. They're not behaving like Isak, they're not behaving like Wissa. They will stay committed to the club until the contract's been signed. So we'll see what happens. But I do feel like Gahey will start alongside Richards and Lacroix. Your two in midfield should be Kamada and Adam Wharton, with Pino as the left attacking midfield, Sarr on the right attacking midfield, and up front should be Jean-Philippe Mateta. I'm just worried about the bench, the quality of that bench. And that's been a complaint from us Palace fans since the start of the season, and we've said it all through the transfer window. And yeah, like obviously with two keepers on the bench doesn't help. And then you've got your defensive players on the bench. Obviously, we can put Lerma on the bench to be that defensive player, but Glasner said in interviews, for example, we don't want to put a midfield at centre back. We don't want to be at that stage. But I feel like he's got no choice unless you want to put Nathaniel Klein there, because Charlie Riyad, who he signed last summer, is now injured as well. So, that's also a massive factor. And you look at our midfield substitutes. Will Hughes, if he comes on, guys, back it, booking. I'm just saying, and then your attacking substitutes, Justin Devenny, Romain Esse, and we haven't even got any strikers on the bench now, because I think Edouard's out with an Achilles injury, and Nketiah's out with a hamstring injury. So that our only striker right now in the squad is Jean-Philippe Mateta. So we're going to see a couple of academy players on the bench that I don't think Glasner will think of bringing on, really, unless we're somehow cruising and he gives them a chance, but I can't see it.
Have you still got that? Is it Matheus Franca? Is he still at you?
He's left on loan. He's gone
Right.
back to Brazil for a year. Vasco da Gama, I think he's gone back to. He hasn't gone back. We signed him from, I think it was Flamengo. What makes me laugh about that is that we put a clause if he ever wins the Ballon d'Or. And he scored one Premier League goal against Southampton last season. That's all he did. And obviously, that's not, he's got talent. Don't get me wrong. He's just been riddled with injuries for the last 2 years, and I personally think that a year back in Brazil might do him the world of good, and hopefully he comes back stronger next season.
So, what do you expect from a deflated Aston Villa?
Well, look, I mean, obviously with Villa is that I think there's been a bit of added pressure with, you're in Europa League. Obviously, with you in Europa League, you haven't got to go through qualifying like we did. So there's pressure on you to get points on the board early before your games kick in. And we had the game against Newcastle on game one, where obviously you had an hour with 11 men on the pitch, but I think as soon as Ezri Konsa did get that red card, you was up against it. And yeah, I think that point was okay from a Villa point of view. The Brentford 1-0, look, I think that was a major off day. I was very, very surprised to see that obviously a Brentford side that went 3-0 down against Nottingham Forest on the opening game of the season like that, for them to roll over Aston Villa the way they did was quite shocking in my opinion. But I don't feel like Palace should look at that and take it as an easy game. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Unai Emery and Aston Villa to get their season up and running. You know, I think you'd be very disappointed after 3 games to potentially be looking at that bottom 3. So, yeah, I think Aston Villa should come out more all guns blazing, which is why defensively and from a Palace fan point of view, this is why I want Gay to be in that team, because that consistent back 3 got us those results last season. As soon as that changed, or had a little tweak about it, if Lerma started or Riyad started when he was fit, or obviously we had Trevor Chalobah as well at the first half of last season. As soon as that defence changed, it caused us a huge, string of problems. So, yeah, I think Aston Villa will come out all guns blazing and hope to get the 3 points.
Well, from my personal aspect, I'll say fingers crossed. Before I close out the episode, Mason, where can everybody find your channels and find you?
So I do Palace vlogs for most home games and away game reviews, and obviously being very hot on the transfer window at the moment. That's Palace Mad Mason on YouTube. And on my TikTok page, more shorter clips about daily news, Palace-wise. Palace Mad Mason YT on there as well.
Mason, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
No worries, mate.
Guys, before we close out the show, make sure to smash a like on the video, aiming for 20 likes at least on the video. And one last thing, up the Villa.